Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and you're listening to the only podcast dedicated entirely to the world's borough, a place overflowing with culture and creativity and community. This show comes to you each week thanks to the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. They are both committed to spotlighting the people and places that make this borough such a remarkable destination. And winter in Queens has its own rhythm. It's still a wonderful destination for people from across the borough, Long Island, Westchester, well, from just about anywhere. The streets feel a little quieter, the air may be a little sharper, and it's the perfect season to slow down and take in some culture. When the cold rain starts falling, as it did this past weekend, Queens offers plenty of ways to step inside, warm up, and let creativity take center stage. From intimate theaters to inspiring exhibitions and performance spaces tucked into neighborhoods across Queens, winter is a reminder that the borough shines just as brightly indoors as it does during the warmer months. This is the time of year to grab a seat in a theater, wander through a gallery, or discover a performance that surprises you. And just as important as enjoying the arts is making sure the next generation has the chance to experience them too, to feel that spark that comes from live performance and creative expression. That's where Inside Broadway comes in. For years, the organization has been opening doors for students across the city, introducing young people to the magic of live theater, both on stage and behind the scenes. Their programs do not just create future performers, they nurture confidence, curiosity, and a lifelong connection to the arts. And that brings us to this week's guest. Michael Presser has dedicated decades to fostering a love of culture and the performing arts in younger generations. Through his leadership and vision, countless students have had the chance to experience theater in a way that can truly change the course of their lives. His work is about more than performances. It's about access, education, and inspiration. So let's get to that interview. Michael Presser, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thanks. Good to see you.
So let's start with you. What first inspired you to create Inside Broadway more than 40 years ago, and how did the organization's mission take shape in those early days?
Actually, we go all the way back to 1982 with Cats, which was about to open on Broadway. And the Schubert organization asked me to put together a student ticket program with the show Cats. So that actually was our first project. And we had the opportunity with Cats to be with the company and the show during the entire length of its run here on Broadway. So that was 18 and a half years, which at the time, Cats was the longest running Broadway show. Hundreds of thousands of children went to Broadway through this program that, as I said, was in cooperation with the Schubert organization. So that actually was our beginning. And then we began from there. And a lot of the things that we do today actually had their genesis back in Cats, back in those years. But today, while we no longer do student ticketing programs, we do have a whole variety of other kind of programs related to theater and arts and education. We today have, we have about 100,000 children in our program today. We are in 120 different schools throughout all 5 boroughs of the city. So we've now become, I think, one of the largest arts and education programs, certainly the largest one specifically geared to and focusing on Broadway.
What's been the most rewarding part about seeing the program grow over the decades?
I think even going back to the first years there with Cats, that the opportunity to introduce this magnificent art form to children, get them excited about what is probably one of the great American entertainment venues. Has certainly been really exciting and extremely rewarding. I also think it's been great for Broadway too, because We have been working very hard over these 40 some years to actually help to develop what will be the audience of the future. And as we all know, Broadway is definitely thinking about who will be the audience in the next generation. So it's important that we begin to bring the next generation to the theater and get them to understand what makes theater so special.
And I'm curious, because this is It's in Queens podcast, how Inside Broadway's work in Queens has evolved, or what stands out to you about partnering with schools, particularly in Queens?
Well, we have a lot of schools from Queens. Actually, Queens is the largest borough that is represented in our program. And we even have let me just see 2, 4, 6. We even have 11 senior citizen centers that we work with in Queens as well. So we're covering pretty much the entire borough, and the program reach now. It looks like that we have. Let me see. Actually, Pia will give us a better counting here, but I think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 schools that are in Queens that
That's
we're
a
working.
good number. That's a good
So it
help.
is a
That's
good
a
number. Yes, Queens, very, very well represented.
and
And also, I'll say this, that the Queens City Council delegation has been incredibly supportive of our programming in Queens. Um, you know, um, uh, Council members Ariola, Krishnam, Holden, Ung, Gennaro, Palladino, Schulman. You see that covers the entire range of the neighborhoods in the borough. And I'll say this too. From the very beginning of our organization, Queens has always had a major representation in our roster of schools. And I'm thinking back to our dear borough president, Claire Schulman, who I'm sure many people remember. Claire loved the arts, and she was a good friend of Inside Broadway. And she, I believe, really back in those days, was very much interested in getting us to be out in Queens as much as possible, you see. And one of the wonderful things about, I think, our organization is, while yes, we are Broadway, and we do want children to come to Broadway and to see Broadway attractions, we are also out in the schools. We are out in the neighborhoods, as you can see by the list of schools that we have in the program. So we are very definitely neighborhood oriented. I think Borough President Claire Schulman very much understood that back in the Cats days, and we continue to do that in these days with pretty much the entire delegation of council members from Queens.
and you're mentioning the support of elected officials, and I want to make sure that I then raise the question of how do you see government and, of course, community support shaping the future of arts education in our city's public school system?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay. I am very concerned that we, not only in New York, but in our society, are not giving culture enough of an emphasis. Um, Arts and education has, over all the years that we've been working here, certainly grown enormously. But it is distressing that whenever there are budget problems, art and culture seem to be one of the first things that gets chopped out of the budget. And that's probably because we just don't give it, or our government does not necessarily give it enough attention, you see. I recently wrote a editorial op-ed piece for the Daily News in which I mentioned that I'm hoping that our new mayor and the new administration will pick up the ball with culture here, and not just arts and education, but culture in general here. The reason I'm concerned there, however, is that we just had an election for mayor that stretched over at least 6 months or so. And not one of the four candidates mentioned culture. Not one of the reporters who followed the election mentioned culture. Okay. Now, culture, and that encompasses everything from commercial theater, commercial art, to nonprofit theater, art, museums, so forth. Culture represents a pretty sizable industry here in New York. There are a lot of jobs that are involved with culture. Culture, of course, is a big tourist industry. It draws people to New York. So this is an industry that is homegrown, exists right here in town. It is a employer and it is an economic driver of our economy here in New York. It needs to be given attention and it needs to be given support because it's an important part of our economy here in
especially
this.
especially in Queens. And on this podcast, Michael, I love to focus on culture. You mentioned programs before. Inside Broadway's programs like Build a Musical and Creating the Magic connect students directly to the Broadway experience. How do these hands-on opportunities really transform students' understanding of theater and creativity and, of course, the importance of the cultural sector?
Well, if you take a program like our Creating the Magic program, for instance, which incidentally goes all the way back to cats, the Creating the Magic program was put together when teachers started calling us and saying and asking if it was possible for a group of students to go backstage and see how, the theater is produced, you see. Unfortunately, the theaters that we have here on Broadway, almost all of them now are approaching 100 years old. They are old buildings and they are small buildings, and there really isn't any space backstage to move a group of people around. Also, in order to see anything, you'd have to be there at 7 o'clock at night because during the day, nobody is there, you see. But we decided it would be beneficial and helpful for the students if maybe we could bring them in the morning to a theater and give them a program in which we demonstrated all of the different jobs and the people who do those jobs at the theater. Give them an opportunity to understand the different professions that are involved in making theater. This theater is a workplace. It is an industry per se. And I think, unfortunately, children and probably a good portion of the public think the actors come on the stage and we turn the lights on and we have a show, you see. Well, yeah, that's true. But there's an awful lot of things that are going on behind the scenes, backstage, even in buildings far removed from the theater. So acting, which is important, is the tip of the iceberg. So Creating the Magic is an opportunity for us to, in the theater, give the children an opportunity to learn a little bit about what is involved with producing a Broadway show. So we're looking at it actually as a careers in theater opportunity because, theater is today completely automated. Everything is run now by computers in the theater, the lights, the stage movement, everything. So sound, for instance, so children should be given an opportunity to see these different elements because maybe they would like to think about working in the theater themselves when they are ready for considering an internship, for instance, or a job. So Creating the Magic is really a work exposure type of program itself. Now, Build a Musical is a different type of an experience. Build a Musical relates to the school and the children of that school being given an opportunity to be on the stage and to present a presentation for an audience of parents and relatives and neighbors and the other members of the school. It is a program in which we send into the school a team of professional teaching artists. We'll usually send a music director, a stage director. Sometimes we'll send a choreographer. We'll also get the children involved in in putting together some costuming or maybe a backdrop for the show. The music director will work with the children on the music for the show. Now, we are not training the actors of tomorrow. That's a whole different course. And we certainly have many wonderful conservatories, both here in New York and around the country, that have the job of training professional artists, performing artists for the theater. But we are looking at giving children the opportunity to be on a stage in front of an audience of people and learning how to speak in front of an audience, learning how to work from a little script, understanding the importance of being able to collaborate and cooperate with the other people who are in the production itself, you see, because theater is a collaborative activity. And all of those are things that help children grow as individuals and as students actually as well. So creating the magic, build a musical, two of our really fine programs that we offer. We do have one other program that I'm going to mention briefly because it does serve a different element too. Each year, we put together a professional show of equity actors, union musicians, that tours throughout the city schools and presents in the auditoriums of those schools. Last year, for instance, the show was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. The year before that, we did Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Ladies. And we've done all kinds of things from Smokey Joe's Cafe, Kiss Me Kate, shows that give children an opportunity to see and hear from professional actors who are involved in making careers in the theater and who are then giving the children the opportunity to see a professional acting production in their school. So it's an opportunity to expose children to some of the classic shows of Broadway history. Obviously, a Broadway show is about 2.5 hours, so we can't do 2.5 hours in the school. So we have to abridge and condense a little bit. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. But I think selecting the right show and working with some good people that we now have who have had good experience in script writing, I think we have found kind of a way to handle this. I'll tell you a very cute story. One of the shows that we did a couple of years ago was Leonard Bernstein's On the Town. And I don't know if you're familiar with the show or the audience is, but it's a story about three sailors during the Second World War who are on leave in New York City. And they're discovering all of the various and exciting things about being in New York. All three of the sailors are from other parts of the country, so being in the big city is a big experience for them. When we did the show, Jamie Bernstein, who is Leonard Bernstein's daughter, came to see the show. And she called me after the show and she said to me, she said, "No, I'm amazed how you did this show." She said, because it's essentially about three sailors who are looking for sex. And you made it into a show that can be shown to children.
That really shows ingenuity and smarts.
Anyway, those are the programs that we have, and as I said, they cover different elements of theater and theater education.
So, in our final minute or two, I'd love to just get a sense from you what excites you most about the projects and partnerships in the pipeline. And then before you go, I definitely want to make sure you provide a website so anyone who's listening to this podcast knows where they should go to learn more and get involved.
Yes, I'm very excited. As a matter of fact, this morning I had the opportunity to sit in one of the rehearsals that we're having for our next touring production, which is a show called The Marvelous Wanderettes. And it's a show from the 50s, actually, which uses all of the pop music standards of the 50s, all the great songs that America played in the 50s and into the 60s too. It's the story about four teenage girls who are really good friends and they form a singing group and compete with each other for the Queen of the Prom type of title. It's really adorable. Beginning next week, it's going to begin its tour of the schools here in the city. It will be in most of these schools in Queens that we've already been talking about. So people who are listening should keep in touch with the school and their auditorium or the AP there. Find out when we're going to hit their school. But the Wanderettes will be touring for the next 2.5 months as well. And not only in Queens, in our other four boroughs as well here. The other thing that we have coming, January is a big month for us here. The other thing we have coming up at the end of January is one of our Creating the Magic programs, which I just spoke about. And the one that we'll be doing this month is the Broadway musical Buena Vista Social Club, which is now in its second year on Broadway. And that show we'll be doing on that show at the theater. It will be available to the students in our program in all of the boroughs, actually. But it will be, once again, a behind the scenes look at the people and the jobs that are done in the theater that make it possible for a Broadway musical to be performed every month. So those two projects are right now in planning and they're about to happen here.
And before you go, what is the website people should go to learn more about Inside Broadway?
Yes, we are. We are in social media as well. Our website is Inside Broadway, spelled out, .org. O-R-G.
Michael Presser, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us here on the It's in Queens podcast.
Thanks so much. It's good to see you and best of luck out there in Queens. We're looking forward to meeting you this season.
What Michael Presser and Inside Broadway are doing is making a real lasting difference by bringing professional theater into classrooms and community spaces, and by welcoming students into iconic venues. They're showing young people that the arts belong to them. That sense of possibility doesn't just stay on the stage, it carries into schools, careers, and communities across Queens and beyond. And speaking of theater and culture, well, there's always something to do in Queens. And the person who has his finger on the pulse of Queens culture, food, entertainment, and events, he's known as Mr. Queens, is Rob Mackay. He's with the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. And each and every week, he shares with us details about some of the experiences that you just do not want to miss.
How are you, Jeff? I got a quick geography question. Where are the Balkans? Well, that's too long an answer because I think it includes Albania and Bulgaria and Croatia and Montenegro and Serbia and Slovenia. We can go on forever. But if I asked you where is the best Balkan party of the year, well, the answer, of course, would be Queens. The Zlatne Uste Golden Festival, please excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, goes on over 2 days this weekend in Astoria, the Marquee Astoria, which used to be known as Astoria World Banner. This is the 40th annual bash, and it goes, and people come from all around the country to participate. Great food, burek, moussaka, and all that, handcrafted goods, and live performances. And when I say live performances, so Friday, the first night, there's a workshop, a dance workshop, and a bunch of bands play. But Saturday, Music goes on in 5 different rooms. Remember, this is the Marquis Astoria. More than 50 bands, and they play from 6:30 till 1:30 the next day. So it it is just a great chance to get your Balkan groove on. All right, thank you, Jeff, and maybe I'll see you this summer on a Balkan vacation.
Thanks, Rob. That's just a reminder of why Queens continues to stand out, not just as a place to visit, but as a place to experience and connect and be inspired. Whether you're discovering a new performance, supporting local artists, or exploring a neighborhood that you just haven't visited in a while, there is always something meaningful happening around the corner. Now, for even more ideas and inspiration, head right over to the It's in Queens website at itsinqueens.com. That's your go-to guide for everything happening in the borough. And if you're interested in business resources or opportunities for entrepreneurs, then head right over to queensny.org and sign up for the QEDC's newsletter when you're there. As you're out enjoying Queens, warming up inside a theater, catching a show, or supporting local culture, take a moment and share it with us. Tag us on Instagram or X. Use the hashtag #It'sInQueens because your photo could be featured as our photo of the week. Queens is filled with stories and talent and possibilities, and winter is just another season to experience it all. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and we'll see you next time on the It's in Queens podcast.